My name is James Theodore Cribb. I was born on 7th the 11th, 1971 in Western Australia.
I would love for you to tell me your life story.
I hope you got the time because this is going to be a lot. So basically I was born in 1971 in Western Australia. My father was a miner in the Pilbara. So the men of the town would go out of town and mine for 2-3 weeks at a time, and the women and kids would stay in the town. When the men were out of town, a lot of the women would play with the Ouija board because they were bored in the town, had not much to do, which I know my dad didn't like it, Ernest Cribb. He told my mum not to play with the board, not to be involved in that sort of thing. But 3 weeks before I was born, the Ouija board told my mother to dye her blanket purple for whatever reason. I don't know why, but silly enough, my mum did that. And so basically the story goes, my dad was home shaving. My mum is 8 months pregnant with me. She's in bed reading. My dad's in the bathroom shaving. He sees a face in the mirror. He says, "My mum, get out here. You've been playing that Ouija board, haven't you?" And she says, "Yes." He tells her to piss off the ghost, whatever she has to do, he don't care. And mum says, like, "If I open the door, will you leave?" And she believes it. Felt like the house got a bit warmer. She shut the door, went back to bed. He went back to shaving. A couple of minutes later, my dad hears my mum choking. So he goes in there to find out what's wrong. And she's trying to pull the purple blanket that she dyed off her throat because she was under the purple blanket. My dad couldn't even rip that off her. So he's a fit man, miner, and my mum was tiny. So the strength he needed to get that off her was unbelievable. He freaked out. And when he finally got it off her, she could breathe, and he ran outside straight away and burnt that blanket in the backyard. So a week later, my mum gave birth to me in the local hospital, and my dad took my 5 brothers and sister, to visit my mum 3 times that week and me in hospital. They would come home to the house being ransacked. Nothing stolen, just a mess with deadlocked doors that were still deadlocked but open, which is really weird. And so my dad, believing it was the ghost, got the local priest in, and the local priest said that the spirit was trying to scare my mum into giving birth in the house so then he could repossess me and take over my body. And he was very angry because I was actually taken out of the house and born in the hospital. So apparently he was stuck there, wasn't real happy about it. But that just leads into a lot of ghostly stuff for the rest of my life when I was born. So November I was born, 7th of November, and we were back in Sydney January. So straight after I was born, basically left Mount Tom Price, Western Australia, and come back to Sydney. My mum and dad split up because I was the 6th child, so they separated after that. And all 6 kids went into a local home here in Sydney for 3 years. So I'm not sure what my mum did in that time, but I know she was in a garage at Stanmore, and she came and got the 6 kids out of the home. So the 6 kids and my mum lived in a simple little car garage at Stanmore. I remember her being so broke that we actually had musk sticks for dinner, like lollies basically, 6 musk sticks each, and that was our dinner for the night. And as a little kid, I thought that was really cool, but obviously it wasn't really cool for Mum because she was struggling. That's all she had. From there, basically Mum got with a bloke named Steve. Steve was Englishman. He had his rules. We weren't allowed to eat his food. So he had honey smacks, orange juice, all good stuff, and that was locked up and we weren't allowed to touch it because we weren't good enough or whatever. So we got the crap food, he had all the good shit. And I remember going to my nan's house at Burwood, because my nan's family were milliners, and they owned a lot of Burwood. And I wasn't allowed in my nan's house. I had to wait outside the door. And I'm like 3, 4, 5 years old, having to wait for 5 hours at a time. Well, the rest of my family are in there, and I never knew why. I knew it was me, but I didn't know why, which I didn't find out till later, which I'll tell you about later. But so basically growing up, I was youngest of 6. It was violence in the house, a lot, anger. Mum's boyfriend very angry if you didn't fit with him. You know, he'd belt you. He spun me around and threw me across the lounge room. I would have been about 5, and all I remember is splitting my ear right open. And I was told to shut up crying and clean up the fucking blood, or I'll just be put in a dress. So basically that was my life. Like, I couldn't cry, I couldn't bitch, I couldn't whinge because you just get it slapped out of you, get told you put in a dress, whatever. You just lived that way. So I didn't realise how bad it was at that time. I thought it was just normal. Steve had asked Daryl not to live with us because Daryl was probably 14 now, so they kicked Daryl out. And Daryl became very angry about that and felt left out. And so basically, it was 5 boys, 4 boys living there. Daryl was out on the street, and Joanne was the eldest. She's my sister. I've heard rumours Steve had tried to do something to my sister, and I'm not sure if that's why Mum and him broke up, but they broke up and separated. So you know, from 5 to 11, Mum had many different boyfriends every weekend. She was a single mum with 6 kids. She was looking for someone to take over the dad role, I suppose, that had money. But these blokes would come home every weekend and they didn't want kids around. They didn't want someone else's kids. A lot of times they were very violent as well and kick you and belt you up and throw you across the room. And Mum was just doing whatever they did was all right, because I suppose if she fought them, they would leave and not be part of the household, and that would wreck everything. But Mum's boyfriend gave me hot foots, all of us, like me, Dean and Paul were the younger 3. So I was 5, Paul was 9, Dean would have been 11. We used to get hot foots every night with my mum's boyfriend, which is basically getting matches put in your toes while you're asleep, and they were lit on fire. And that was like a running joke over many boyfriends. They'd hear about what he did and they'd do it. We finally got sick of it and got Bobby Stanley back, who comes from Newdown. We finally loaded his foot up one night and burnt him. And he said to my mum, "Aren't you going to belt him?" And my mum did stand up for once and say, "Well, you do it to them." So he copped his back, and that's what it was. It was about violence, what you could cope. And, you know, whippings were just a common thing. You get whipped by belts, buckles, cords, whatever, feather dusters, whatever was there, punches thrown, whatever. Mum's boyfriends were, I had a lot of trouble with Mum just shutting her mouth while we were getting belted and mistreated, because, you know, I wouldn't do it to my kids. But, yeah, so violence was just part of the house, but that's how I was brought up. My brothers were already boxers when I was born, so I was born in a house of fighters. And if you can't beat a bloke, I was told, go back every fucking day and harass him. And he's going to beat you every day, but in the end, he'll get sick of you coming back and just call you nuts and won't want to fight you. And that gives you respect from where I come from. And maybe you're getting belted, you go back and you do it every fucking day until he has that respect for you. I couldn't speak to people from churches because they were dickheads. That was bullshit. They were just full of shit. Belt them. If I see you with talking to them again, I'm going to get belted. Like, that was the response from my brother. If I catch you talking to a gay man, I'm going to fucking belt you. You belt him. Churches, same thing. They're just full of shit. Don't let them come round, you fucking belt them. And if I see you talking to them, I'll belt you and I'll belt them. So I sort of avoided people to help them not be attacked by my brother as well. But my brother Daryl, he treated me like I was his best mate. He would blow dry my hair at night and brush my hair and really look after me and really treated me well. But when I was 10, he was like 18, 19 and started using heroin. And I remember the first day he had a shot of heroin, I went to work with him and it was lunchtime. He said, I'm just going in the park for a minute. And he went over on the fucking seat in the park for like 2-3 hours on the night. I didn't know everything about drugs at that time, but I saw him have his needle and go on the nod sleeping in the park, and I just had to wait. But from that day on, Daryl turned into my worst nightmare because he went from my brother and my best mate to a fucking angry, shitty, drug-addicted person that would use violence and fear to get what he wanted, and that was drugs and more money for drugs. And he was the man of the house, he was the oldest, and he could fight. So Mark, Daryl, Mark, Dean, Paul and me, we had no chance of standing up to Daryl because he kicked the shit out of you. I mean, I remember being held hostage by Daryl with a pump-up slug gun, and he would shoot me in the legs, and he just liked having fun. He was very angry, abusive person. I'm not sure if he got abused like that younger, but mate, he caught me jigging school, shoved me in a trundle bed and left me there for 5 hours. So I'm claustrophobic, I'm scared of small spaces. I have a lot of fears like that. I was basically a whipped dog my whole life. I couldn't say no to anything. If I got told to do it, I had to do it. If I whined, I got belted. If I didn't do it, I got belted. If I did too long, I got belted. It was too fucking fast, I didn't do it good enough. There was always a reason to get belted and for violence, it's just to run the show. And I thought that was normal, you know. Just growing up with violence, when it's there, you don't realise it's not meant to be there. And that became my then instinct, my first go-to, my reaction is to be violent. And but then, you know, certain things started happening to me young, like I was in second class at Elwood Public School, and the kids were playing football cards with their cards, and one went flying over to the right, and I went to get it for the guy. I wasn't stealing, I wasn't trying to take it. But the guy who was in like fourth class who'd thrown the card, he thought I was stealing it, and he actually latched onto my finger and wouldn't let go, biting it, and basically ripped my thumb in half. And this is the day I sort of realised negatives may not always be negatives, because he ripped that thumb in half. And yes, that was bad for me, and I got put in and to stay in the children's hospital, which is just here at Camperdown back then. But while in there, I thought I was there for me to get fixed, but the bed next to me, there was a boy in that bed who was burnt all over. Like, he didn't even have lips. He had foam. They had foam there on his face to hold, like, because he had no lips. And I could hear him every day asking his mother, where's Dad? Why isn't Dad here? And the mum just kept saying, he'll be here, he's coming the end of the week. Well, his mother told my mother that that boy was playing in a petrol station with matches. The parents owned the petrol station. And it went up in flames, and Dad dove in, pushed him out and died. So this kid didn't even know his dad was dead. And he's in the bed next to me. He didn't get out of that bed for the first week I was there. So I said to the nurses, because I knew, man, when he's got some bad news coming about Dad. He didn't know yet. And obviously he was going to feel guilty over that too, knowing that he caused the fire that caused his dad's death. And I said to the nurses in there, is it all right if I just put him in a wheelchair and push him around the hospital so he has fun? and smiles. I said, because he's not like, and it's not coming soon, a smile. He's got his dad to talk about. Like, they said, we would love for someone to do that. So 3-4 weeks I was in there, and my mission was to keep that kid happy. It wasn't about me, and that's when I realised certain things happen to all of us. That, yeah, it looks bad, and yeah, you can run with it, it's a negative, but if that negative hadn't happened, I would never have been there to help that kid get over and maybe give him the last bit of happiness in his life. I don't know, like burns are they're hard to clean, they're hard to live after that, so I don't know how long that kid lived. And if that laughter was the only thing he had, man, I'm so glad. And I'll do it again tomorrow. But that's where we all got to see. You know, we all have shit things in our lives, but there's always someone worse. And I know that's, you know, everyone says that. But mate, there's cunts out there with no feet, no tongue. They can't communicate. They can't move. And yet we have people giving up and killing themselves over smallest things when they're completely healthy and got everything. And you live in Australia. Like, seriously, it's not that bad. It's, basically gone back to like now, like, so I'm like, what, 5, 6, 7? Daryl's not living with us, Dean, Paul, Steve's not there. There's blowing boyfriends every week. I remember seeing Dean and Paul go in the bedroom with what looked like it was a sandwich bag, but I thought they had wee and like pee in it, piss. I'm thinking, what are you doing? I was like 6 or 7. And they're like, come in here, come in here. They took me in there, and what they were doing, they were huffing fly spray and getting stoned on that. So they started giving it to me, so I wasn't dobbing on them. So it was like, keep it in here, get him involved, he can't tell mum. So at 6, 7, I was there huffing fly spray, getting stoned every day, just, you know, because that's what they were doing. I didn't know it was wrong. I didn't know it was like looked that badly. And one of our friends' older brother, he actually passed away doing that with the fly spray. And I think his mum started a help group around King's Cross called Who or something. We help our kids or something. She was the first one, I'm sure, because of that son dying. But yeah, like I saw, he was a friend of ours that died. So then we went to lighter fluid, that sort of thing. So, you know, I was smoking cigarettes at 8, marijuana by 11, and that was every day. Like the lighter fluid, fly spray at 7, breaking into factories at Dulwich Hill, because we'd smashed a smoke machine back then, and the smokes used to have chains on them, taped to the packet, so not only would you get smokes, you'd get money. So that was like a little thing, and all the local boys, like Daryl's mates and all that, would do break into sports stores, clothing stores, that sort of thing, bring clothes around to the poor houses, so all the poor kids had stuff, but they definitely didn't break into people's houses, and if they caught you breaking into someone's houses, they would belt you, because that was the line of respect. You don't go breaking into a worker's house. You get the shops that are insured and they're ripping us off, let's rip them off, not each other. All we knew were criminals. Like, you know, I didn't call them criminals, they were friends. But to the outside world, we looked like bad criminals. And yes, some of them were bad. Some have been to jail for a long time. My cousin was a triple murderer, sentenced to 106 years and stamped never to be released. And I think he did 46 years in Long Bay Jail before passing. But yeah, that violence, once Daryl started on the heroin, that best friend turned into my worst nightmare. So he would abuse my mum and carry on to get drugs. So he's doing that. My brother Paul had just finished year 10. He's the first one. He's 4 years older than me and closest one to me. He was the first one in our family to finish year 10 in school. He got a job at Marrickville, Addison Road with a company called Vogue Displays, screen printing, and applied for the Navy. So he passed the Navy with flying colours. They said to him, you can be anything you want. You get a medical, you're in. Well, that medical came back with Paul had 3 months to live. He was riddled with cancer, never been sick, but was riddled with cancer. Said, you're not living more than 3 months. So for me, I was like 11, 12. Paul was 16. And that was a shock to everyone. Like, it was the first one in our family that was going to pass. But Paul fought that disease for 3.5 years. He never gave up one. I didn't see him cry once. I seen him laugh in bed one day, and I'm like, what are you laughing at? And he goes, I can't use my legs. I was like, what? He goes, I can't move my legs, and giggling. I'm like, I thought he was lying, mucking around, because he was laughing. He didn't want to scare me. That wasn't about him. He was like more concerned about not upsetting me or Mum than the cry himself. And, to show that much courage, like when he's 16 and being told, like, you got 3 months. Well, for that 3.5 years that he lived, because I was home every night, he pumped me with how to be a man. Don't do drugs, don't hit women, don't do what my family's been doing. Basically explaining how what we were doing was wrong to everyone. Like when he was 18, Mum said, we'll take you to the brothel and you can get a prostitute for your 18th, because you're a virgin. And Paul turned around and said, are you kidding? He said, I wouldn't do that if you paid me. He said, that's got to be love. And he looked at me and go, don't you dare go find prostitutes. And he said, you go and you sleep with your wife and that for love, not for, just pleasure. And as I said, my first view of sex was Daryl having sex with his girlfriend when I was like 6 or 7, waking up, he's there, punching her. And she's wanting it harder. So till 10, I was like, sex is violent. Like, that's what it looked like. That's what it was. And so I was really fearful of growing up and having to do that because that's not who I was. So many times in my life, my brothers would say, go build him. And I can't build someone unless I'm angry but they would belt me and force me to do it, sort of. So there was a couple of times I hit someone where I didn't want to, but there was times also I just didn't do it because that's not who I was. I was also taught from birth how to be a boxer. So I got one brother, Mark, who is a orthodox boxer, which means lead with your left. And I got my brother Daryl, who's a southpaw, leads with your right. So Daryl tells me to lead with my right, Mark teaches me to lead with my left. So I can do both. So I'm ambidextrous. I'm just as comfortable either way, doesn't matter, which has only helped me. But Daryl trained me from birth to be perfect. Apparently by 5 I was like those little champions, and he'd call me out and show his mates how to shape up. And so it just come naturally to me, that's all. Mark had to train for it. Like Mark lost his first 7 fights and then won 113 in a row. And for those 7, everyone was telling him to give up, you're shit, you're getting belted. Daryl was showing off because Daryl was a natural and he was a hard man, and he'd tell Mark, you're shit, you're hopeless. But that just made Mark more determined. And then what even actually makes Mark more a freak than anything, when Mark was born back in the day, the doctor said to my mum, he's not gonna live 2 weeks. Mark was born 3 months premature. He had a hole in his heart and a heart murmur. he had certain issues. He was half a pound of butter. They said, you got to make funeral arrangements. He's not going to live. Well, Mark believed that I became Australian super bantamweight professional title holder. So it sort of shows you, like, doesn't matter what anyone is or says you are, doesn't matter, man. If you do what you do, you will make it as far as you want to go. It's all on you, you know, like, and then it comes back to Paul. Paul was coming home after operations where they said he's got 1% chance of living. So he's not coming home this time. And he would turn around and say, no, I'm coming, Jimmy. And he would come home. So in the end with Paul, it was really, it got a bit harder because I wasn't expecting him to die in the end. I was used to him just outdoing the numbers and the chances and the odds and coming home. But for 3 years, yeah, he pumped me how to be, who to be. If you believe in something, stick by it. And that was something in the world we grew up in. People didn't do that. If you got threatened, you would change to the most violent man. He would scare you into changing your opinion on things. I was like, no, you stand by it no matter what, death or not, pain or not. You stick by what you believe in no matter what anyone says. You know you. Everyone does. And that's where I think, you know, if you give up your morals and shit like that, your beliefs very easily, you need to learn again because, like, you shouldn't. If you believe in something, you don't change it. And so that comes back to God. I was never allowed to believe in God or look for God. Or Paul definitely told me he was about God and what God was more about. And again, I was only 12, so I didn't know fuck all. And Paul said to me, I remember Paul saying to me, I thought I was special. He goes, no, I'm not special. He goes, you're the special. He goes, you got to live. He said, you can't kill yourself because you end up in purgatory. And he told me all this stuff, why I have to live and why. And I never understood, you know, like, why do I have to go through all the hard shit? And why can't I give it up? Like, you know, suicide, it has been a thought now and then, but Paul made me promise him not to kill myself no matter what, because he's fighting for his life. And how dare I throw mine away when he had to fight for it? And it's Paul, I then, you know, basically it was 87, February 87, and he was at RPA hospital, and Paul was that brittle by this point that when they moved him to change the sheets in the bed, they broke his hip. So basically he was out on morphine all the time because otherwise he would have been in pain. So he's asleep a lot, and it was always mum, me and someone else, like maybe 2 or 3 at the hospital. And my dad's new wife, Joyce, who I give her credit, worked in the hospital, used to send 3 meals up to Paul's room because we'd always be there. And I remember this night because I shifted out the front to have a cigarette because I wasn't allowed to smoke. So I shifted out, had a smoke, and it was 6 p.m, dinner was coming. So I went back upstairs and woke. Mum and Joanne were in Paul's room, my sister and my mother. And I went in and I said, Mum, Joanne, dinner's coming down the hall at 6 p.m. And Joanne woke up and looked at Paul and said, he's not breathing. So we looked at him. And then Paul took his last breath, took a big, deep breath, breathed it out, and then smiled as he passed away. And to see him smiling, sitting there dead, like, that has saved me and my depression for years. That helped me handle that. And within the month after Paul's passing, my mum said to me, I'm going to go to Bexley and move in with Steve, which was her first boyfriend in the original. They kicked Darryl out years ago, and so they were getting back together. And I was 16, just, you know, should be in year 10, and Mum said, but there's one problem. And I was like, what's that? She says, well, you can't come. You're not welcome. I was like, so you're going to move out? I'm going to move in with Steve, and I just got to go where? I was lost, man. I just lost my brother. And to watch him die for 3 years and fight and basically rot away from the inside out, that was hard enough. But now I'm like, so I'm just going to be on the street. So I was on the street at Newdown here, running around. I didn't know what to do. I was really confused. I was upset. Again, it was me not being wanted. I knew it was an issue with me, but I never knew why. And so anyway, I was on the streets here. I was like 16 and a half. And there was a couple of older fellas that I knew through my family. And I started selling marijuana and speed for them, which would give me marijuana and some cash to live by and enough to pay for a room. So that's how I started surviving, was selling drugs to survive and pay for my way. And so basically 3 years I was doing that, running around Newdown. Never got in trouble, but never got caught doing it. So I'd sell at Newdown Leagues Club till midnight and then go to Sutherland City Hotel in the city and sell all night there for a couple of the older boys that were getting watched by police. It was easier, I did it. And I had guns pulled on me there. People that I thought I knew. I was like, you got something? I was like, yeah, what do you want? And he goes, all of it, and pulls out a gun on me. I was like, yeah, thanks, bro. Like, and then there was a guy named Billy Boy from the Cross, and he come and see me one night, and he said, James, you do this so well with the drugs, and we can trust you, we know your family, how about you start selling heroin for us in the Cross? And I might have been young, but I wasn't stupid. I know heroin's for the big boys. You want to play in that world, you're going to, you know, there's big prices to pay. That's the big boys' world, and I knew that I wasn't prepared for that. So I basically stopped doing everything. I stopped selling for the other fellas because I didn't want to go down that road. And I was at Newdown Leagues one day, and this girl's calling my family name, Cribby, Cribby, while I was at the bar trying to call me. And I knew I'd never met her, and they all think I'm my brother because I look like my brother. Anyway, I go to the table, and it's Carla Murlock, and she's like, yeah, you're Dean. I was like, no, I'm not. No, you're Mark, you're this, you're that. I go, no, you never met me, I'm James. Anyway, Carla was living in Brisbane at the time, and she had gone back to her partner who was a bank robber and in jail for bank robbery, and left him and came back to Sydney a month later looking for me. And I think within 6 months I was married to her at like 20, 21. And when we got married, which is like right now, 32, 33 years ago, the 20th of August. So it's nearly today to the mark that I got married at Marrickville to Carla, and she was actually pregnant with Shana, our first. When Carla wasn't meant to fall pregnant, we were on the IVF. Her other partners could never get her pregnant, so apparently she had some issue, and I got her pregnant anyway. And within 2 years of that, we had the twins as well. But Carla's father was, I grew up in boxing at Newdown Police Boys with all the Australian boxers, Lionel Rose, Jeff Harding, Russell Sands, rest his soul, Mundines, or any gym in Australia, like basically the Cribb family is known. And that goes back to 1905. My great-great-great-great-grandfather, Tom Cribb, was world bare knuckle heavyweight champion from 1905 to 1910 or something, 1915. So fighting just in the bud. And so Carla's dad was a martial artist, and I wanted to do martial arts. My brothers told me you can't kick people, only girls kick. And, have a look at Bruce Lee. Why wouldn't you want to be like that? So I got into the martial arts at Enmore, which then in turn led to kickboxing, which then in turn led to opening our own gym in Wyong with my wife's brother and my trainer's son, Robert Murdoch Jr. So me and him opened the gym. We were fine, we were going well. Everything was on track. And I fought in the karate tournaments up there. It's very hard for me to get kickboxing fights because no one was in my weight class. So I had to fight and spar heavier people always. And that's just life, how it's always been. So basically I went to work. It was Valentine's Day, 1997. I said to my wife, I'm not going to go to work. I used to load semi-trailers for a certain company at Homebush Bay. And we lived on the Central Coast. But I said to her, it's Valentine's Day, I'm going to stay home, we're going to go out for dinner. And she said, no, I don't feel that great, I'm just going to lay in bed, you go to work. I was already heading to work earlier when I decided I remembered it was Valentine's Day. So I came back in and put my stuff down. I had what I'd left on the table that night at home when I left for work was the permanent papers that company had offered me that week to offer me a permanent job. So I know I was a good worker and I know they liked me because they offered me that work. And I'd filled out the papers and all I had to do was take them that night, but I left them at home. We get to work, we're loading trucks because Brian Driscoll was a neighbour and we were employed to asset personnel and then employed to the trucking company. We were the only two outside personnel that night that were there. So they asked me and Brian to clean a liquid spill that the forklift driver had caused. I said, what is it? They said, it's just a detergent, just for washing trucks. Just put sawdust, sweep it up, get it clean. So we're cleaning it and my mate started having an asthma attack. And it turned out that liquid was 100% pure organophosphate. And I suffered with high-level OP organophosphate neurotoxic poisoning. So it affected my brain, my nervous system, memory, my immune system stays on, which then creates chronic fatigue and a lot of health problems. I can't have children. My wife was pregnant at the time and had a deformed baby because of the chemicals in my system. So they had to abort that baby and give her a curette, I think it is, but they left some of the baby in her for a little while and that started septicemia, I think, and then she had to have a hysterectomy. So it really affected my wife as well. And so me going from having this career path, I was going there. Now I had no way of getting there because that was just taken away in one night, and those health issues I've had to struggle with and face and learn to live with. But after watching Paul for 3 years and seeing what he went through, it was nothing. It's pretty easy for me to do. I don't get medicine for it now still. But I still go kick the footy in the park for 3 hours. I don't allow myself to not be me. It's hard enough with losing all that because I'm not me, but there's only certain things you can take away. I just will not allow it. But yeah, that changed a lot. Losing that pathway, losing that direction in my life. I was like, well, what do I do now? And from that point on, though, even though it happened in the past, like I remember when I was younger, someone was coming to help a friend fix their car. I'm one, well, there's 3 blokes here doing it. I'm going to ring that guy's wife and say if he's too busy because he worked, I knew he'd be tired coming home the arvo. If he's too tired this arvo, he doesn't have to come over because these two guys are fixing the car anyway. He turns up at my house the next day wanting to fight me, and he's a 45-year-old man. I was like 16. Because apparently his wife told him, I said, don't come over, like he wasn't welcome or something. And that sort of stuff over the next 10 years, in that a lot of people have said that when something happened in my life, I said a certain thing or did a certain thing, which is a complete and utter lie like that. That has happened a number of times. So basically, Paul had died 87. I moved in with Kenny Lawson. Kenny Lawson's half-brother was Steve Donkin, who was a trainer at Newtown Police Boys. But Kenny Lawson himself, nicknamed Mouse, was pretty much a gangster, in a way. He would steal and mob and do some other stuff. But he had a wrecking yard at Blacktown, checkered flag auto wreckers. And back in the day, they used to steal 5XF Fairmont gears, strip them all down, and you dump the car in a certain spot. You know that shell goes to the auction. We buy that shell back, put all the parts back on, and sell them as brand new cars in the paper. We're doing 5 of them a week. So we'll earn $100,000 a week just doing that. And this is right why the government started putting invisible numbers on car parts, because then you couldn't just strip them down, get the body back, now you own it, put it all back on, sell it as a brand new car. But Kenny Lawson, he was, like I said, he wasn't the greatest of men. You put him in a criminal category. But I tell you what, I had respect because he put me up in his house and he looked after me, and anyone, like, it didn't matter what I did. That house was the first house I felt was sort of home no matter what. And I'm just getting to, I was sitting there one night, I was only 16, so I'd been at the Catalogue Hotel. Yes, I was too young, but we were allowed in. So I'd come home and I was sitting in this house at Sinclair by myself. It's probably midnight, 1 a.m. And the TV's on and I hear this voice like it's right next to me, and I'm talking plain as day. And it said, kill 'em all, Jimmy. I was like, what? And it was that clear, like you said it right next to me. It was like a voice like that, and I'm thinking, what the fuck was that? Then it said it again, and I'm like, one of my mates outside, so I'd run up the end of the house away. They'd have to get over the outside fence, and I'd run up there and say it again. And it said it right there, kill 'em all, Jimmy. Now, I knew it couldn't be anyone outside because there's no way they got up here. It wasn't on the TV because now it's up here with me. I ended up back in that back room where the TV was and probably heard that voice in the next 10 minutes 6 more times. Plain as day, man's voice, kill 'em, Jimmy, kill 'em all. I ended up at the sink, holding the sink going, fuck off, I will not do it. I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was God, the devil. I was thinking it was me going nuts. Like, this voice, how am I hearing this voice? And I'm arguing with it, telling it, fuck off. No way I'm going to kill anyone, idiot. So after I get to that point, I'm like, go the fuck away. I didn't hear that voice, and I've never heard that voice since. So I'm 54. That was like 16 and a half. So in, 38 years or something, I've never heard that voice again. So if I was nuts, I would have heard a voice again. Whoever that was knows they couldn't get to me or couldn't encourage me to do it, so there's no point talking to me again. I never heard voice again, ever in my life. So if I was nuts, I surely would have. So I have no idea what that was. Probably 6 months later, I was working for Pages Hire at Lidcombe, and I was on the train station there, 17 years old, one cigarette in my packet, and I looked down the station and there was a homeless man coming towards my direction asking people for smokes. But while he was doing it, he was a hunchback like that. Hey, you got a smoke? You had a smoke? And I was thinking like, oh, look at this goose, he's coming straight at me next. I hate telling people no. I don't have it. And I don't like, if I can't give him one, I didn't want to pull mine out and smoke it. So I was like, oh, fuck, I wanted to have that, so I'll just have to put it away. So he's at the chair there, he asks, like, oh, I have a smoke, and then he comes to me, and I look at him dead in the eyes, and he stands up straight as a nut, looks me dead in the eyes, and with a normal voice, he says, you should be a fighter. Then back like that to the next guy to ask him for smokes. Didn't even ask me for a cigarette. His voice was clear and clean. He stood up straight. He was not normal. I don't know. All I can ever say is that guy was an angel. He pushed me down a certain road. And there's been a couple of them. There's my lady in America, and I know I've told Zulma, you're an angel, because you only message me when something bad is happening or I need that support. So she's been in my life now for 15 years, man, and the timing that she uses to message is so weird around other things. She's there to help me stay up. So basically, it's so after my poisoning, I believe my wife was only with me because I was talented, and all her brothers knew my brothers. They knew I was going to the top. I was well taught. Yeah, my first spar in martial arts was against an Australian title holder, and he couldn't touch me. I kicked the shit out of him, basically. But that was because I was trained to be a fighter from birth. I got good hands, good ducking, good all that. Never had I kicked, but I fucked around in the bedroom trying to copy Bruce Lee, so I sort of had it naturally anyway. My wife's father was the ISKA, International Sports and Karate Association president. He also did 5 different martial arts, 2 black belt, and then he turned all them 5 into Hankai fighting arts, which is what we train. We were on Central Coast training people. And if it wasn't for the gym and losing my career path, I had nothing else. And from the poisoning, I found my wife, her friends, her family, everyone, my brothers, my family, they were there for money, for what they could get. They weren't there for me. They were there for themselves and what they could gain. And that was more obvious now after the chemical spill, because they were walking away and leaving. And from that day on, my marriage fell apart completely, even though it was already shit. Relationships just started failing because they didn't want me. I couldn't give them what they wanted, which was money. And to tell you the truth, I started pulling back even more because I knew they weren't my friends. They weren't. My kids were my target and my goal, and I stayed in that relationship for 20 years of hell with a woman that 3 years in was just, she was bipolar, she had issues. It was nothing but violent, crazy arguments over shit. And I mean, all I was doing was training other people. And training, I wasn't at the pub, I wasn't out having drugs, and that was an issue for her. I was like, well, I'll go to the pub then and just see how you win then. Or if I had a job, you're always at work, you're never at home with me. So I quit and try and look after the kids and train in the arvos. Oh, you're never at work, get a fucking job, but you're never in the right with this woman. And she used to throw punches at and tell her brother I hit her, and he knew, like, I was a fighter. If I was going to hit her, she would have had marks. And but yeah, she started using the kids as weapons, trying to get them mums better than dads, and just stupid shit. But I stayed in that relationship just so I can give myself to my kids more, because they needed to know that, you know, age like her, she just sits in the thing watching movies all day. That's fine if you want to do that, but then question it. Think outside the box. Me and my kids would watch docos and talk for 5 hours after, like maybe it could be this way, or that we're always open to what things possibly could be. Because if you're not open to that, you're done already, you know, like you've just shut yourself off. And just from Paul, like I said, man, that knowing he smiled after death, knowing what he went through, and knowing what other kids go through in Africa and wherever, man, there's like Kenyans and where they're forced to kill their own parents with swords and knives, and then forced into the gang that did it for years and years. You know, we don't have that here, thank God. But I couldn't imagine that, having to kill your mum, then go with this gang and kill other people for years. And that's what they live with daily. And, you know, that sort of stuff here, you don't hear it, you don't see it, so you don't think of it a lot. But people have got to understand, man, we're spoiled rotten here. Like, we got water and, you know, you can't go hungry in Australia. If you're hungry out there, it's because you're too lazy to go out the street and get food. There's food given out every corner in Sydney for free. How, like, you know, we don't have a lot to whinge about, but we are still soft and sooky and think we have a lot to whinge about. It's and yeah, my uncle used to say when I was a boy, but it's not. It's when I was a boy, it was hard. Not like now. It's like you get trophies for fucking first, second to last. I was getting smashed. I was 5 kilo playing rugby league, getting hammered by all these big dudes. And it's just you learn to cop those hits and come back. Doesn't matter, you know, like you're more resilient than anything. And I found out when I was poisoned, you know what, you can hold on to it and do nothing and die, rot and die. Is that really what you want to be remembered for? Just don't stop. Don't stop. The day you sit down and stop is the day you start getting old. I'm 54 now, I can run and jump 8-foot fences all day long, spring over that, go punch pads, go do that. Like, when I was a kid, blokes that were 50 couldn't do that shit. And I'm doing this poison, fucked up age, like, I blow people away, man. And it's not about being better than anyone else, or it's knowing I can do it. And yeah, I know I can do it, but if I can show you can get hit 100 times. Like, just an example, I was at a Rimba. Me and my wife had a fight because I was going training. I said, we'll stick the car up their house, I'll walk to the station. And this is God for you, man. So I get to a Rimba station. The train's coming from Lisero, and there was kids on this platform I was on that knew people on that train from Lisero, but it wasn't stopping, right? It was going to go straight through. There was a kid hanging out the door of the train, and he puts his foot on the platform, like sliding, holding the door open, right? So he's sort of skating along the edge of the platform. And the train's hooting because it ain't stopping. Well, at this first end, the side fence is like a pool fence. It doesn't go right to the edge of the platform. So it's back like 3 foot. So when he starts and he puts his foot there, there's a gap. He's going down. I'm standing there with my training bags, a couple of girls, year 9, year 10. Old man there goes, look at this idiot. So everyone on the platform then looks at this bloke hanging out of the train. So we're all looking now. And as he goes past, he looks back at everyone. So he's now not looking at the direction he's going, he's looking at us, and all of us are looking at him because the old man said, look at this idiot. So that's what everyone did. Well, at that end, the full fence on the side went right to the edge. And that kid went through that fence and splattered like a watermelon. And these girls went to run up there. I go, where are you going? They're like, we've got to help our friend. I went, there's no helping him, pal. He's gone, man. Like, he was instantly gone. Like that. And as we'll get to, and I'll explain later, as again, more of, I get put in places like that, where people are dead and dying, or like if I got trained in a coma and jumped in front of a truck. And I don't know why, but I've been on this mission my whole life, that I'm there for that and I help other people through that situation. My neighbour says, I can't get in. Joe's in there somewhere. Can you climb in? I climb in the window. I'm climbing over Joe's dead body for these people just so, because he was dead. So the only window to go in was on his bed. 5-year-old was my first person we saw dead, was an old man we used to go to the shop for. Me, Paul and Dean used to go downstairs, forget his name. You want something at the shop? He was either pissed on the lounge, yes or no, right? This week he was there. We said, no, he was asleep. He must be drunk. The next week we went to ask again. He hadn't moved, the same bottle, same area, and he stunk. That was the first day I saw a dead man. And then, you know, at 6 years old at the Shakespeare Hotel, I see Mum's friend come out, stumble out the side door of the Shaky, which is one of the most violent pubs in Sydney. And his name was Pat, and he was wearing white jeans and a white shirt. And Pat was the most lovely, non-violent man you ever met. He stumbled out that door on the side of the pub, and I was a smart ass at 5. What, you drunk, are you, Pat? Like, harassed him. And he looked at me and he had his hand like that. And I can remember that split second looking at him and being confused as I was like, what's going on? Because from here down, it just started turning red. And I was like, what's going on? Because I was like, are you drunk, Pat? Because he stumbled out. And he looked at me like that, and I was like, the hell? Just for a second I had that, I don't know what's going on. And he dropped to his knees like that, bang, and then bang onto his back. And he bled out, and that blood covered one side of the lane to the other. And what I remember then is everyone's looking at Pat, and this bloke comes running out the pub, straight through the blood. I remember the footprint man splashing. They chased him. That guy stabbed Pat over a game of pool. Not even for money. Just a shit mistake. He bumped the ball or something. Bang, dead, gone in 3 seconds, man. The amount of blood it was horrific. And that's what I get put in. I get put in situations like that to help people. Like I said, I'm definitely on a mission from God. As Paul said, he thought he was special, but he said, you know what, it's not me, Jimmy, it's you. He said, no, I've got a teacher. And for 3 years, he wasn't my brother. He was a teacher. And he's the one man that has taught me more about anything and everything in my life. And for years now, I've been sitting there going, why, but? What's the fucking point? Everywhere I go, I'm alone. I went to Brisbane, you know, I was up there and met this lady, and, you know, I don't drink alcohol, but she was drinking out. She was an alcoholic. 5 bottles of wine, 3 to 5 a day, bottles, shaking when she didn't have it, spewing up while she was on it, and sleeping in it. I said, you're an alcoholic? I can't be with an alcoholic. If you don't drink, okay, whatever, but I'm not going to hold you hostage, but you're an alcoholic. And she denied it. She said, get the fuck out of my house, don't come back. was 6 months later, that lady rang me and said, "Thank you, James." I was like, "What for?" She goes, "I'm at my first AA meeting and you're the only person that was ever honest." She said, "Everyone just told me, no, you're all right," because they were friends. They didn't want to upset me. She said, "You were the only person. I don't give a fuck if it upset you. You're an alcoholic. Call it straight, sort it out." And I see that's where we're at with God. We're all running around worrying about our feelings and our shit. God's there, clean up the backyard, man. Like, have a look. And he ain't doing it for us. We got to do it. But, yeah, well, I'll go into more stuff and more evidence of God. Like, just real quick, my brothers all got English middle names. Neville, Darrell Ernest, Mark Andrew, Paul Robert. I get James Theodore Cribb. Where the fuck do I get a Greek name? You know, I didn't understand that forever. But apparently Theodore means gift from God. 7 is perfection. When I was born on the 7th, the 11th, 7-1. I've been given this talent to fight. And I'm talking where I can fight 3 years, and I'm a little bit like Jackie Chan, where I'll push him into the chair because I know that gives me 2 seconds to whack him and get that on, you know, I'll use whatever, a chair or whatever to get that timing, and I freak myself out. If people grab me and mucking around, I'm like bang, bang, and out of it, and I don't even like fighting. I don't like to hit people, but I've got this skill and ability that is beyond anyone I've met in Australia. And I don't want to show off about it. I don't bridge up. I don't fight. I'm 54. I haven't had a fight in the street since I was 23. I've had 4 or 5 different times people attack me on the street. I duck all the hits. Then they're like, "Oh, no, I don't want to fight." "Oh, you don't want to fight now." But throughout this whole thing, I want to prove God's real because I know he's real now and it's all lies. I want to show everyone that you can cop so many more hits than what you think you can. Give you some of the biggest advice a commando has given, an Australian commando has given me. And that his advice was just get the dinner. If he gets lost in the jungle, he's taught just to get the dinner. That's a positive. If you plan 2 weeks ahead when you're in a depressed state, you're never going to make that plan work because you're depressed. You haven't got the conditioning to get that roll on. You need to make it a dinner tonight, tomorrow. That's 3 positive. Once you get 4 or 5 positive days, they roll in to being positive on positive on positive rather than negative, positive, negative, you know. And you're never going to make your 4-week plan because you're in a depressive state. Sounds good at the time, but you're never going to do it with a positive, positive, positive. You get that positive roll, which is just about getting the dinner. Doesn't matter what happens. If you're alive and making the dinner that night, that's a win. So you can kick your foot, you can smash your car. Doesn't matter. If you make it to dinner, you're winning. Some people don't even see their dad ever again from today. There's people out there right now that don't make it home tonight. And for you to go home and have dinner with your kids and think that's not a fucking win because you had a bad day or, you know, like priorities need to get changed. Like you're taught wrong. Everything we're taught is wrong. Your pain is different than my pain. I feel it differently. We react different. So to put you in categories like we have for certain diseases or pain medication, that's wrong, man. She feels the same worse than he does, or vice versa. We've got to stop putting us as 600 million people as one, because we're not. And everything hurts. But through pain comes growth. Through, you can't grow without pain. You can't change. You can't So negatives are really good things, man. Death is not death. It's not an end. It's a growing period. Our next step it's definitely not the end. But yeah, and yeah, I haven't even told you half the stuff. We're going to go into crime, violence, and it's about how the fuck do you be violent to someone when you've been treated like that yourself? That's why I can't do it because I know what it's like. But then I get these other people saying, yeah, but he was belted and he does that to them. So I don't get that. I think that's a bit of an excuse, and I think, we all got to be held accountable for stuff. But again, you got to know that what you are is different to anyone else. And like a mate said to me the other day, I'm bored with life. There's nothing new anymore. Do you know what? Every single day, like today, I walked here today. I passed a man on the crossing and there was a car waiting. Him, me, and that car will never be in that fucking vicinity ever again. It's never happened before. It's randomly this thing happens today and it's never ever going to happen again. Me, that stranger, and that car, whoever they were, are never going to be in that 3-foot vicinity of each other again. Something new happens every fucking day. And yet, it will never happen again. Like, just you go past certain people, certain things, certain auras set other things off in you. What you see is not new. There's new shit every single day. That is never going to happen again. You just got to be aware of it. And we've got to stop closing ourselves off to certain things. This is that. No, we're human. We're amazing, man. We can grow in so many ways that they don't tell you is even possible. And we only see 8% of what's out there. What is all the rest? What can't we see? Or what don't they want us to see? I don't know, but I'm going to go into it and definitely prove God is real.
Man.
That's us, yeah?
Yeah, I
So
think.
I continue just my daughter. That's all I can
Yeah,
say.
no. Thank you. I think you've had an incredible life and you've been through a lot, and I think we'll pick this up another time and
Yeah,
finish this
I'll
off because there's so much more to
Yeah,
go through.